Hey guys, Brian with Cajun Cardboard coming at you from the great state of Louisiana. This is going to be a basketball-focused video, an NBA playoffs video. It's only going to be about 10 minutes long. I promise I'm not going long. This is going to be a little bit less about cards and a little bit more about the NBA playoffs and just some of my thoughts going forward. I've jotted down a couple notes, but essentially I want to know what the hell just happened in the last 24 hours. I don't think I'm alone in that, three of the biggest favorites in the NBA playoffs this season were the Bucks, the Suns, and the Nets. Middleton goes down last night with what looks like certainly a series-ending injury. I guess they'll determine the severity of the sprain today. He didn't come back in the game. They're getting MRIs. As a huge Bucks fan, I'm expecting the worst. If he can't go, this series, which was supposed to be a sweep or a gentleman's sweep, right, of 5 games, just turned into an absolute dogfight. Regardless of whether they get through this, there's no way Bucks win the title without a healthy Middleton. So we're watching that Middleton injury close. That's going to dictate where the Bucks can go and what they can't go. So that was my number one favorite. They're a scratch. My number 2 favorite was the Suns. 24 hours ago, we had the Devin Booker injury. We don't know how serious it is. He's definitely out for games 3 and 4 in New Orleans. Can the Pelicans pick up a game or really put the heat on the Suns and pick up 2 games and go up 3-1 in that series, guaranteeing them a chance in Game 6 to try to put this thing away in New Orleans? I don't know. Can more than 10,000 people show up? Can 2,000 people show up to the damn game in New Orleans tonight? Who knows? Let's see. Let's give them a shot. They have not had great fan support in the past. So the Suns are very iffy right now. I do think that even without Booker, who is their best player, you can throw all that Chris Paul crap out. They've proven they can win without Chris Paul. I don't know if they can win without Booker. I just don't know. I haven't seen that. None of us have seen that. They're going to have to beat an upstart young Pelicans team. It's playing with a lot of confidence right now. They'll probably get through the series. I don't know. But that series just became up and down, just like the Bucks-Bulls series. And then the Nets. Last night, I saw one of the best team defensive performances I've ever seen on Kevin Durant. I've never seen him get his pull-up jumper blocked. He had no idea his shot was even going to be contested. That does not happen very often. Those of you who watch NBA basketball know that's his go-to, right? He can always get an uncontested or even a contested ignore type mid-range jumper with a little slight fade anytime he wants, where he elevates over a defender. Similar to DeRozan, only his release is probably 12 inches higher than DeRozan's after elevation. And given the fact he's 7 feet tall. So huge performance last night by the Celtics. That series is very, very much in doubt. Again, I've always been a proponent that the series does not begin until the home team loses a game. Boston did their job. They did what they were supposed to do. They won both games on their home court in grand, down to the wire fashion, with Durant and Kyrie not being exceptional. Kyrie had a pretty good first game, not a great second game. Durant had really 2 dud games, and definitely the worst game and the strangest game I've ever seen in my life for Durant in game 2, where he couldn't handle the ball. He turned it over repeatedly. He turned it over on consecutive possessions with very little pressure. It was very strange. It was like something was off with KD, which is very rare because I still put him in as one of my 3 best players in the world. So that series very much up and down. The Nets would have been my personal probably 3rd favorite to win it, just because I'm always going to go with the team with the best player, and oftentimes the Nets will have the 2 best players on the floor, certainly the 2 best offensive players on the floor, and I put Durant in my top 3 players in the world, as I think most would do. And so those 3 super heavy favorites, in my opinion, have serious question marks right now. So in come the Celtics, which I never would have thought had any chance to win this thing, right? The Celtics, I've always said a team can't win it without an elite point guard, right? And we're going to throw out the old Bulls with Ron Harper and Kerr and all those guys, because nothing applies when Michael Jordan's on your team. But if you go back through history and you look at teams that have won titles, they're going to have a point guard. They're going to have a guy that they can depend on to handle the ball, to make decisions in the fourth, to create for others, all that. The Celtics do not have a point guard. And do not sit here and tell me that Marcus Smart is a point guard. He's not. He is an elite defender. He's a phenomenal perimeter defender. He will take open shots, not necessarily make, but he will take open shots and keep you a little bit honest. If it's a catch and shoot, he won't do anything off the dribble. He's gutsy. He's a good player. Don't get me wrong. Fantastic player, fantastic piece, and the heart and soul of that team, along with Al Horford. But he's not a true point guard. Pritchard plays, 14 minutes a game, so don't give me Pritchard. Derek White is just not a point guard. So they don't really have a true point guard. So I did not think the Celtics had a chance. They've proved me wrong in these first 2 games, getting 2 big wins, albeit very close without KD and Durant producing. So Celtics are now relevant, super relevant coming out of the East. They would get an injured, Bucks team. Portis is out too, so who knows what the Celtics can do. They might be able to get to the Eastern Conference Final again, which they've done 2 times in the last few years. The Warriors look fantastic. Again, the Nuggets are much worse than I thought they were. Jokic is everything as advertised. Everybody knows what he is, what he can do. His supporting cast is not great. And honestly, I'm not sure what the expectations were with that Denver team when your second and third best players aren't even playing. If you take the second and third best players off any team out of these 16 teams, it's a sweep. It looks like that series might be a sweep. Let's see what Denver can do at home. Sometimes the home crowd does things, and going back to my premise, and this series doesn't really start until you lose a game on your home court. So let's see what the Nuggets can do. I'm not writing them off yet, but that supporting cast is awful, in my opinion. They're terrible. I thought Doncic had the worst supporting cast. After closer, examination, I think that Warriors supporting cast behind Jokic is much worse. And then the Sixers, right? So those are the 3 teams that were not even on my radar that are now, man, we got issue. They're serious contenders. The Scotty Barnes injury killed the Raptors. The Raptors, their theory of let's play all of these 6'9" guys that can guard every position is great, but when you're missing Scotty Barnes, it really does matter. I mean, it really does matter because he'd be a great, switchable matchup with Tobias Harris and Maxey and all those guys. He's just a really good defender and a really good young player that gives them some offensive punch too. Certainly in the top 3 for Rookie of the Year for the the NBA Rookie of the Year award. So Celtics, Warriors, and Sixers are in, and I did not have any of those 3 teams in my top 3 title favorites. That's just me personally. The Warriors, my concern with the Warriors, the Celtics is no point guard. My concern with the Sixers is no depth. My concern with the Warriors is they have no interior post presence at all. So it's great when Clay and Poole and Wiggins and Steph are knocking down shots. I just worry. I watched the way this Celtics-Boston game is being officiated, where they are literally allowing them to mug Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. You can do, and the same can be said. They're allowing them to do the same thing with Tatum and Brown. And Brown's been exceptional, by the way. I'm high on him. I'll worry about when the Warriors get into a series with an uber physical team. I was thinking the Bucks or the Sixers or a team with a huge interior monster presence, and Jokic is every bit that. But for whatever reason, I don't know why they don't just dump it to Jokic on the block and let him just bully the hell out of people. It's almost like he's trying to get other people involved, and I know that's the way he plays, is that point center position. These guys around him are just not any good. I don't know how else to say it. They're just not very good. You can go down the list. Barton takes terrible shots. Monty Morris, Aaron Gordon can't shoot a basketball and has no confidence right now. I mean, go down the list. His supporting cast is just not great. So as great as Jokic is, he's not able to exploit that super, super porous, soft interior defense from Golden State. But maybe someone down the road will. It looks like they're going to get Karl Towns in the next matchup. Or the Memphis Grizzlies. Jaren Jackson and Steven Adams aren't that guy. So I got to believe Golden State is praying that Memphis gets through, because I think that they would be a really good matchup for Golden State to cruise into the conference finals. But so those 3 teams are out. Those other 3 teams are in. Just going through the series real quick again. I've got it up on my side screen here. Is why I'm looking to my left. Phoenix and the Pelicans is a toss-up right now. It's really crucial that the Pelicans win this game 3. It sounds like Booker might be back for game 5, but look, I've seen other stuff that says he's out indefinitely. You guys know how hamstring injuries are. Sometimes it can be 2 or 3 games, depending on how severe the tweak was. Sometimes, it's weeks or a month. We don't know. They're going to keep that close to the vest. That whole series hinges on Booker. Can the Suns win it without Booker? Absolutely. Of course they can. They were in the finals last year. They've got absolute studs on that lineup. They do have some depth, but Booker is their best player. He is their best offensive player. He is their best wing. He is their heart and soul. He's nasty as hell. He means a lot. So that's a big if. So that's a 50-50, maybe a 60-40 still, I give it to the Suns. Let's see if the Pelicans lay an egg at home or if they can come through and win 2 games. Dallas and Utah, this series is all about just buying time, right? If Doncic plays in that series, Dallas wins that series, in my personal opinion. They do have home court advantage. They got the split in Utah, which is huge, behind, Maxi Kleber and Jalen Brunson going bonkers. That was an amazing game to watch, and I never thought I'd say that about watching any Dallas-Utah game without Doncic on the floor, but that was an amazing game, too, to watch, and really happy for those Dallas guys to win that game without Doncic, because that's really all about buying time. They needed to get one in Utah. They got it. It sounds like Doncic is going to be back for game 3 or 4. Is he going to be 100%? I don't know. It sounds like if this is the regular season, they wouldn't rush him back. But let's see what happens there in that game 3 when it heads back to Utah. And I'm sorry, those first 2 games were in Dallas, not in Utah. So Utah's looking good, 1-1. But I still think Dallas, if they can get Doncic back, they pull it out. So they will be headed up to Utah, which are some of the nastiest fans in the NBA, and a tremendous home court advantage. So we'll see if Dallas needs to get one more, right? In these 2 games where Doncic is back, maybe not back, or iffy, that Dallas has got to get one of these next games in 3 or 4 and get a win there and come back to Dallas 2-2. The Golden State, that's over. I think it's a wrap. Again, let's see what the Joker can do. I'm not going to put anything past the probably 2-time consecutive MVP. Memphis and Minnesota, one of my favorites. Well, it is. It's, even though I'm a huge Bucks fan, this is my favorite series to watch. Period. Hands down. Not even close. You're talking about Ja Morant and Anthony Edwards, 2 elite supernovas coming up through the ranks, basically stamping their name on the NBA. Where do they belong? This series, it's a shame it's in the first round, but this is going to go a long way in determining the direction of the Timberwolves. Their big 3 is better than Memphis's big 1, and I'm not going to hear it about the Desmond Bane and Dylan Brooks and all that crap. The fact of the matter is Minnesota has the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th best player on the court, if you assume Morant is better than Towns and Edwards. Regardless, it's a 3 versus 1 situation. But you're talking about incredible chemistry in Memphis. Obviously, they proved it all season long, but the playoffs are different. So one of my favorite series is to watch. I'm putting that series at true, absolute, straight smack down the middle, as 50-50 as it gets, and I can't wait to watch it. I have no dog in that hunt. I can't wait to watch that series. Over in the East, we got Miami, Atlanta. It's over. It's a sweep or a gentleman's sweep. I don't want to hear anything about it. Trae Young can't do it by himself, and as expected, Miami's nasty defensive perimeter players that can switch everything, Kyle Lowry, PJ Tucker, Jimmy Butler. It's a lot to ask Trae Young. I don't think he has the help that he needs. John Collins is playing, but is he perfectly healthy? I don't know. I just think Miami's too much. Miami's a really good team top to bottom with tremendous depth. They got shooting. They've got defending. They've got Bam inside. They've got literally everything you could want. They've got experience. I mean, all those guys have been there and done that. Lowry's won a title. I mean, it's a nasty, nasty situation in Miami where I just don't think Atlanta has any chance. They're an imposter. They got no chance to move on. Philadelphia and Toronto, I would have said Toronto has a chance if it was 2-1 because of their length. But again, I just don't think Toronto has what it takes to beat Philadelphia. I certainly don't think they're winning 4 games in a row, including 2 on Philadelphia's home court. That series is over. We're looking at Philadelphia versus Miami in an absolute nasty bloodbath in the second round, with Bam Adebayo matching up with Embiid. So we'll see how Miami decides to defend Embiid. We've already talked about Milwaukee and Chicago. It became a 50-50. Look, you take the second best player on the Bucks off the team. Who knows if Portis is going to be back for the next game? I thought it was just an elbow to the face and a cut. They were going to stitch it, patch it, put him back in the game. He didn't come back in the game, or I think he tried to, but he didn't end up finishing the game. That worries me. It makes me think there's some type of maybe contusion to the actual eyeball itself where he can't see or something like that. I'll do a little more research. I'm sure we'll find out more in the next 24 hours. But that's a huge concern to me. If Portis is not playing, even in 1 or 2 games, and Middleton's not playing, that's not a good situation for the Bucks. Boston and Brooklyn, again, 50-50. I'm not counting out, one of the 3 best players in the world, and then Kyrie Irving, who's one of the most electrifying offensive players in the world. I don't personally care for the dude, but objectively speaking, I am not counting out Kyrie Irving after what we've seen him do in these types of situations in his career when his back is against the wall on the biggest stage. I'm not counting him out. I do worry that the supporting cast around Brooklyn is not sufficient to get past the Celtics, and I don't think there's any team in all 16 of these teams, maybe the Golden State Warriors, more confident right now than the Boston Celtics. I would say the Celtics and the Warriors are riding on high, and so you're going to hear media over the next 48 hours. You know, contenders, favorites, can anybody beat the Celtics? You're going to hear all that BS. It's all a bunch of BS. The media always overreacts to every single game in these series. You got to take a step back and keep it in perspective. Brooklyn's going home for 2 games. They've got, arguably the 2 best players in the series. You can say Tatum. I know there's a bunch of Tatum hype train people out there, whatever. I get it. At the very least, Kyrie is on the same level as Tatum, and Jaylen Brown, as much as I love the dude, is not on the same level as Kevin Durant. Team defense, Boston is absolutely off the charts filthy. And what you got to remember about Boston is if they can get through this series or even get deep into this series, they're bringing back one of the most versatile, nasty interior defenders in the entire NBA in Robert Williams, and that will slam the door, in my opinion, on this series. That rim protection, that ability to switch pick and rolls and play that drop coverage, he's just super versatile and super fantastic on defense. His defensive rating speaks, volumes for it. I don't have to go into depth on that, but you got to remember they've got an ace in the hole, Robert Williams. So if Robert Williams comes back, it is looking like Boston, and I never would have ever expected that because I thought Boston not having a point guard was going to be a big issue. But again, the way these games are officiated really does favor Boston because they're beating the living goodness out of Durant and Kyrie, and the refs are letting them do it. So we'll see if that continues. Sometimes whistles and the way the game's officiated changes when you get onto the home court. So let's see if they officiate those games the same way. I would not be surprised if in game 3 between Durant and Kyrie, they shot 30 free throws. So let that sink in, let that settle in. Let's see how they officiate this game. But I'm thinking 28 to 30 free throws between Kyrie and Durant. And those guys are going to shoot 90%. So you're probably looking at, 26, 25, 26 points just from the free throw line between those guys. I would not be surprised to see them both go over 30 next game, and the officiating change drastically after Steve Nash starts bitching, which he's going to do at some point in the next 24 hours. We've seen it 100 times. So anyway, those are my thoughts on the playoffs, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Every once in a while I'll just do NBA specific videos like this just because I want to get my thoughts out and share it with you guys. I've never been more excited. This is probably the first time in many, many years where I thought there were this many teams that could actually win the title. Again, a lot of it hinges on injury, but it ain't out of the question that Minnesota can come out of the East or the Grizzlies. Well, maybe it is, but it's not out of the question that Dallas can. It's not out of the question that Phoenix or Golden State could win the whole thing. It's not out of the question that Miami, Philadelphia, or Boston, and don't write off the Nets yet, can. I mean, you're talking about 6 or 7, arguably, teams that could legitimately do this. Again, a lot of it depends on injuries, and that's not including the Bucks, which I don't think the Bucks have any chance to do it without Middleton. And they're my favorite team, and they were my preseason favorites and pre-playoffs favorites. So let me know what you think in the comments. I'm anxious to hear your thoughts. These are just mine. Thanks for watching. Keep collecting basketball cards. Yes, we'll have another video about basketball cards next, probably. Keep collecting. Stay positive, and peace.